in this war that Israel is fighting. Shalom. I'm Dov Shuren from Jerusalem.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner. Very pleased and privileged that Brigadier General Reserve Amir Avivi joins us. He is the chairman and founder of the IDSF. He also had many senior roles in the Israeli Defense Force, including Deputy Comptroller of the Security Forces, Director of the Office of the Chief of Staff, Deputy Commander of the Gaza Division, Commander of the Sagi Division, Commander of the Battalion 605, Commander of the School of Combat Engineering, and he's been listed by the Jerusalem Post as one of the top 50, among the top 50 influential Jews around the world. I even heard might even be one day a prime minister candidate. So, Brigadier General Amir Avivi, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you. So, your perspective, you were in Gaza, you were in charge of Gaza. How is Israel performing now compared to past conflicts in Gaza?
Well, it's completely different because we have a very clear goal of war to eradicate Hamas completely as a governmental and military entity, and to make sure that never again there will be a terror army in the Gaza Strip. So it's three goals. We have to also bring back all the hostages. And at the moment, the army is doing what it needs to do to achieve these goals, take over the whole Gaza Strip. We have destroyed 18 out of 24 battalions of Hamas. We have 2 battalions left in the central camps and 4 battalions in Rafah, the Rafah Brigade. And basically, once we take over Rafah and control the Egyptian border, this will basically bring down Hamas and will achieve the first 2 goals, which is destroying Hamas as a governmental and military entity. And I believe that also in this scenario, we'll be able to bring all the hostages back.
Will Israel be able to do so? There's tremendous pressure from the United States. You also have pressure from Europe saying, Israel, don't go into Rafah. They have over 1 million Palestinian Arabs are there. And they're also talking about the fact that, hey, we got a plan for bringing back the Palestinian Authority to control the whole area again, right?
Yeah, so basically we're going to move the Palestinians west and north from Rafah. It's not that complicated, but it will take a few days to move them towards the coastal area. So it will be pretty clear from citizens when we go into Rafah. So in this sense, I don't see any problem with that. And also talking about Palestinian Authority, I must say, I don't see any scenario where this really terrible, corrupt, and terrorist entity will be brought back to Gaza. I think the government is very resolute in not having the Palestinian Authority, the Gaza Strip. I remember when they got control of the Gaza Strip in '94, it took them 7 years to take the Gaza Strip from the Stone Age to shooting rockets at Sderot, all this under the Palestinian Authority and before the disengagement. So they are definitely not a partner for any solution in the Gaza Strip.
I agree with you, but we're hearing the bandy about. I heard the words reconstituted Gaza Palestinian Authority. And the truth is that they're corrupt and they're dangerous, and they're not that much better than Hamas, even though they have cooperated with Israel, but they also have their own wings, and you have terrorism in Judea and Samaria, right? And we've been focusing on Gaza in the last number of months, but the amount of terrorist incidents in Judea and Samaria have also increased, correct?
Yeah, definitely. They are not the solution, they are the problem, and we will need to find new solutions. Now, when you talk about the day after Hamas, it's not one day. It's the day after, and then there is the day after the day after. If you ask me what is really the day after Hamas, it will be basically military control. Israel will have to control the Gaza Strip for a certain period of time. And from a military point of view, we'll have to control the Egyptian border to prevent any buildup of force again in the Gaza Strip. And we will need full freedom of operation everywhere in the Gaza Strip. We cannot have anymore a reality where the Palestinians can build in the cities terror infrastructure like the Palestinian Authority did in the 90s and early 2000, and then the Hamas. We'll have to control the Egyptian border, have full freedom of operation everywhere, all the time. And then we'll have to find a local solution, maybe a local clan leadership in the different cities, but not the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas, and not Palestinian Islamic Jihad.
So let me ask you this question. You mentioned the Egyptian border. Egypt has made it very clear. Now, there is a peace between Israel and Egypt. Made it very clear they don't want any Palestinians to coming into Egyptian territory. And they said, Israel, if you're going to allow that to happen, we're cutting off relations. So how serious of a threat is it? And what is Israel doing behind the scenes, in your opinion, with Egypt to mitigate that kind of situation?
Well, Israel is assuring the Egyptians that we are not going to push or force the Palestinians to cross to the Egyptian side. We are going to move them west to the coastal area and maybe north to Khan Yunis after we finish to clear Khan Yunis in the next week or two. Having said that, I think that it's disgraceful that the Egyptians are blocking the border and basically preventing from children, women, people who really want to go out of the war zone to a safety area to go out. I mean, in Ukraine, 14 million people left Ukraine. Nobody blocked the borders, and I would imagine that if somebody would have done that, the world would have been in outrage. You know, how can you block people, citizens, from going out of a war zone? This is what Egypt is doing, and the world is not doing anything about that. I would have expected Europe, the US, to say to Egypt, you cannot do that. You cannot prevent people from going out from a war zone. This is unacceptable. But still, this is what the Egyptians are doing. Now, looking really at the big picture, talking about Egypt, we've seen in the last few years Egypt getting closer and closer to Russia, procuring more weapons from Russia, getting closer to China. Egypt has joined BRICS, the economical ecosystem of the East and the South, challenging the Western economies. So Egypt, in a way, it's distancing itself from the US. And this is bad news because what is keeping this peace agreement is that Israel and Egypt are on the same side. But if the Egyptians are slowly changing side, that might in the future also have an effect on this peace agreement.
Why is Egypt changing sides, in your opinion?
Well, for many reasons. I think they're very, very disappointed from the American policies. We've seen Obama at the time supporting the Muslim Brotherhood, which are basically an existential threat to the Egyptian regime. And when the Assisi took over again Egypt and through the Muslim Brotherhood, the U.S. said, you are ruling against, the law. We want the Muslim Brotherhood back because they were supposedly chosen democratically. So to Assisi, the U.S. is not a friend, and it doesn't trust the U.S. Also, we have to take in account that the Chinese basically are dominating completely the trade in the Middle East. The Chinese trade in the Middle East is $500 billion. US trade in the Middle East is around $70 or $80 billion. So the Chinese have become the most dominant economical force in the Middle East. And the big advantage the US has is the military advantage, and they're not using that. I mean, you see the US, the West overall, much stronger militarily compared to the East, but with zero willingness to use power. And if the US doesn't show leadership, if the US is not willing to deal with Iran that is spreading its arms all over the Middle East, then they lose the support and the trust of their allies in the Sunni world.
Maybe I just want to adjust your cameras so we can see you even better than we are right now. So from your perspective, Do you think the government is doing a good job in navigating the war? You also have to deal with the captives, and some people say you can't really do both. You can't navigate and put end to Hamas without jeopardizing the hostages that are being captive by the Hamas.
No, I think that these two goals complement each other. I think it's only the military pressure that really gives us the chance to bring back the hostages. And I think that most of them are probably in Rafah, some of them in the central camps in the areas where the IDF didn't operate yet. When we'll start operating in Rafah, there will be big opportunities talking about the hostages and also about the destruction of the leadership of Hamas and the destruction of the Hamas battalions. It's only the military pressure that will bring us the opportunities to bring back the hostages, whether it's militarily or Hamas being really threatened existentially and then being willing to cut some deal and also probably not with very high prices to Israel. The more existentially it will be threatened, the more are the chances that we'll get a good deal and we'll get our hostages back.
Can Hamas be eradicated? Is that possible?
Well, in the Gaza Strip, in this geographical area, definitely yes. We cannot kill the idea, but we can kill the terrorists. We can take over the area. We can bring down Hamas as a government and as a military entity. I can tell you that, for example, in the north of Gaza, Hamas is not controlling. I mean, the IDF is moving everywhere pretty easily. Today, our brigades can move from one side to the other side of Gaza city in less than an hour. Before that, it was 2 months of fighting. So definitely we are moving towards the point where Hamas in Gaza will be eradicated, but we might have Hamas in other places. But I must say that Israel will hunt down every single Hamas leader everywhere in the world, like the Nazis. We are going to eradicate all this leadership that was involved in the 7th of October massacre.
Including in Qatar, because you have three of the top leaders that are there. One has, I think, two of them have $5 billion apiece. The other one has maybe only $2 or $3 billion. You're talking about tremendous wealth that they stole from the Palestinian community in Gaza.
Yeah, all of them are millionaires and billionaires. All of them don't care at all about their society, just about their families and making money, and continuing with their jihadistic culture. And yes, we have to find them everywhere they are. The guys in Cairo just flew a few days ago to Nigeria. That might have been an opportunity, but I think that eventually we'll get to all of them.
Our guest is Brigadier General Reserve Amir Avivi, the founder and chairman of IDSF. He had many different senior roles in the IDF, including Deputy Commander of the Gaza Division, Commander of the Sagi Division, Commander of Battalion 605. He's been listed by the Jerusalem Post as among the top 50 Jewish influential Jews in the world. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned. And we'll take some of your phone calls. 212-769-1925, 212-769-1925. You can email zev@talklinenetwork.com, zev@talklinenetwork.com. Great way to have some of your questions answered. We're also on WNEW tonight. We're 24 hours a day, 102.7 FM, HD3, high quality. If you're in your car, switch the dial to 102.7 FM. Just give it a little more turn to the right to get to HD3. Catch us 24 hours a day. By the way, I mentioned we had Sid Rosenberg earlier on the program from WABC Radio, and we were in Lido for Shabbos. I want to do a shout out. What a wonderful Shabbos it was, and I mentioned, the Shabbat dinner with Sid Rosenberg and Rabbi Eli Krimsky and his wife as well, and there was really something very, very special to the Wexler family, to Yossi and Chani Wexler, on Sophie's bat mitzvah today. Beautiful, beautiful event. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned. This is the Talkline Network. The base Medrash Heichel Moshe, under the leadership of the Prager Rav, Moshe Boren Shlita, located in the Upper West Side, is hosting a lively musical Kumsitz event on Motzei Shabbos, Saturday night, March 2nd, for Orthodox and Torah-minded singles between the ages of upper 20s to upper 40s. Join us for refreshments, lively music, singers, and the opportunity to meet like-minded people. Chadchan will be present to help facilitate meetings. Don't miss out this wonderful opportunity. Text your name to 845-376-3169, 845-376-3169, and they'll send you information. Again, that's 845-376-3169.
Take advantage of early bird pricing at Pesach Supreme's Ultimate Hamish Pesach Experience at the Sleepy Hollow Hotel in Tarrytown, close to New York City. Aside from tantalizing Pesach delicacies prepared fresh daily by famous Hamish chef Shimi Zafir, your family will enjoy spectacular Chol HaMoed activities for all ages, including children's rides, kumsitz, and concert. Not to mention an exciting day camp program led by Ari Abramowitz, world-renowned singer Shia Burko, Chazan Chaim Unger, and top-class entertainment led by Gershie Moskowitz, and so much more. Book now during the early bird special and get $500 off per couple room. Call, text, or WhatsApp 201-777-0212 to reserve. That's 201-777-0212.
201-777-0212.
Mark your calendars, Monday, February 19th at the prestigious Teaneck Marriott at Glen Point. Hear from industry leaders in sales and marketing, network with top professionals, gain invaluable insight, forge powerful connections, and skyrocket your business. Don't wait. Elevate your business at the SMB Sales and Marketing Summit.
To reserve your spot, please call 305-520-7493. Again, that's 305-520-7493, or online at successevents.com. That spells SUCCESSEVENTZ, successevents.com.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Elliot Paradox Kaplan, and I'd like to invite you to my new show, Irrational Advice, with me, Dr. Elliot Paradox Kaplan, and we're going to be on WSNR 620 AM and WW 102.7 HD3. And that's going to be on Thursday, 9:30 p.m. It's going to be an exciting show. We're going to talk about different aspects of therapy, different aspects of life, and a paradoxical way of looking at it, which basically means it's counterintuitive. It may sound a little upside down, but sometimes to get your point across, it has to look a little different than what you're accustomed to thinking about logically. If you want to reach me, my phone number is 917-345-5750. Again, that number, 917-345-5750. And my email is paradoxdoc@gmail.com, paradoxdoc@gmail.com.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
Now we're back. Our guest is Brigadier General Reserve Amir Avivi. He is the founder and chairman of IDSF. He had many senior roles in the IDF, including Deputy Comptroller of Security Forces, Deputy Commander of the Gaza Division, Commander of the Sagi Division, Battalion 605, Commander of the School of Combat Engineering, and Jerusalem Post lists him as being among the top 50 Jewish influentials in the world. And I even heard rumors, Major General, that you might one day run for Prime Minister. Is that correct?
Well, tell you something, Rev. I'm being asked a lot about that, and I give everyone the same answer. I don't deal with politics in the middle of a war. We have a war to win, and this is what we're focusing on.
Okay, let's go to Yaakov in Manhattan. You have a question for our guest. Go ahead, Yaakov. Okay, let's see if we get Yaakov on hold. Okay, Yaakov, you have a question for our guest. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Your question for the general.
Yeah. My question is this. There's a lot of reports in the media that the United States is putting all types of pressure in terms of weapons deliveries or not delivering on time. And because Israel has allowed itself, excuse me, to become so dependent on even ammunition, that is what has basically slowed down the attacks on Hamas, and that they've also forbade Israel from attacking Hezbollah, which is at war now with Israel, and the army keeps saying they're responding, but they're not saying it's a war. But obviously, since October 8th, all the reports indicate that there is a war there, that they're increasing their attacks. There have been people killed, actually Israeli civilians. There was an Israeli.
So we got the grabbing of your question. Your question is military hardware being slowed down to Israel, and what about Hezbollah in Lebanon? It's really a war, but they're not calling it a war, correct? That's your question?
Not calling it a war, and also preventing Israel from attacking Hezbollah, which is an existential threat.
Let the it's a very, very big threat. They've been more dangerous than Hamas. Let's have the Major General respond. Go ahead, Major General.
Yeah, so I start with talking about Lebanon. Israel chose strategically to be on the offensive in Gaza and on defense on all other fronts, and we're dealing overall with 7 different fronts. We have Judea and Samaria, we have Lebanon, Gaza, Iraq, Yemen, Syria, Iran. We're dealing with many fronts, but we want to focus on Gaza and eradicate Hamas first. And this is our choice. It's not about the U.S. What the U.S. is assisting in this sense is the deterrence that it's providing with Hezbollah, not to bring the situation to a full-scale war at the moment. Talking about munitions,
Brig Gen, he says that there really is a war. We're not calling it a war, but there is really a major activity with Hezbollah.
We are exchanging fires along the Lebanese border, but this is far from being a full-scale war. Full-scale war means something like 3,000 rockets and missiles shot at Tel Aviv and the surroundings every day. This is full-scale war. Full-scale war is a IDF maneuver in South Lebanon, or Lebanese forces attacking also on the ground Israel. This is not happening. Yes, we are exchanging a lot of fire along the border. Yes, we have tens of thousands of Israeli citizens that have been evacuated, and it's not a good situation, but it's not a full-scale war. The Israeli strategy is to win against Hamas first, then we will probably take the whole army north, or most of it, because we'll have to leave forces in Gaza still, and then threaten Lebanon. It's all war or Hezbollah withdrawal from South Lebanon. Israel will try with the help of the U.S., if the U.S. will be strong enough to really achieve a diplomatic solution to get Hezbollah to withdraw from South Lebanon. And if this won't happen, we are going to war. We're not going to leave the situation as it is. If we have to fight, we'll have to fight, but then it will really be a full-scale war.
You think that's going to happen?
Will have repercussions.
You think it's going to happen anytime in the near future? There's going to be a war between Israel and Lebanon? Well, I should say Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon.
So I think that looking at, April, May, maybe the summer, there might be a big war, and the only way to prevent it is building a strong coalition, an American-Israeli Sunni coalition, and a willingness of the U.S. to pose a military threat on Iran and also Hezbollah as a coalition. This might create the deterrence needed to achieve a withdrawal of Hezbollah.
Is that
If
likely to happen because the United States is saying to Israel, don't get involved in dealing with it, even though Hezbollah has daily attacks against Israel? It seems to be going against what the United States is looking to do.
Well, I think that what Israel is saying, everybody in the cabinet, is we are not going to have tens of thousands of Israelis not being able to go back home. What will really affect the decision is the society. I mean, we have to bring back our people home. We cannot wait endlessly, and we cannot bring them home while we have Nukhba on steroids in the form of Radwan forces along our borders in the north. So I think that the U.S. also understands that Israel will not be able for long to avoid a war in Lebanon, and the U.S. can prevent this war, but they need to show leadership. Now, talking about munitions, we are getting a lot of assistance all the time. There were some bureaucratic issues with Congress and Senate that made a reality that it took a bit more time in certain cases to get what we need. But at the moment, there is a flow of capabilities. I think that there is an understanding in the administration that Hamas must be eradicated. But unfortunately, we don't share the same reasons. We want to eradicate Hamas for one reason, and the administration wants to eradicate Hamas to go back to a two-state solution, which we oppose completely. This will be an existential threat on Israel and a price for the terrorism and atrocities that Hamas did.
Yeah, well, it was no proof that, listen, they can attack Israel and you get a reward. You have a Palestinian state, and Hamas is together with Palestinian Authority. This is what the world says they want to do, and I don't understand the logic, but that's what's on the table right now.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that the Israeli society completely opposes these ideas. They don't make sense, even realistically. There is no scenario where we can talk about a Palestinian state.
Beryl in Costa Rica, call us back. I know you called, but let's go to Avraham in Brooklyn. Okay, Avraham in Brooklyn. You have a question for our guest. Go ahead, Avraham in Brooklyn.
Thank you. Why doesn't Israel take over the administrative part of the health ministry that issues the statistics on how many civilian casualties there are in Gaza? Right now, I think Hamas probably still controls it, and the numbers that they issue are very damaging to Israel because they don't make a distinction between Hamas fighters and civilians. They list them all together. They list a Hamas fighter who's 18 or 19 years old who could be a battle-hardened veteran as a child. 18 and 19-year-old Hamas fighters are listed as children. All these statistics make Israel look very bad in the eyes of the world. If Israel took over, and they inflate the statistics too. They give higher casualty numbers probably that are actually the truth. So if Israel took over that administrative function, then they could issue more accurate casualty figures probably, and Israel would take less of a hit than they're currently taking in the world. That's my question.
So the government of Hamas is all the time moving out of the places where the IDF is operating, and now it's concentrated in Rafah. So only when we'll go into Rafah, then we'll be able to really destroy all the leadership of Hamas and all its governmental offices, which have been moved south to the Rafah area. So really the ground incursion in Rafah will be the decisive combat where we are going to really be able to completely destroy Hamas and then really take over all these governmental entities and bring the real information of what is going on inside Gaza.
I want you to share with us from a military perspective how sophisticated Hezbollah is in Lebanon compared to Hamas. They have a tunnel system. They have intelligence, which is helped by Iran. They've infiltrated Israeli intelligence, from what I've read. So I want to look at their capabilities. And as bad as Hamas is, Hezbollah is so much worse.
Yeah, Hezbollah is a much stronger entity with more than 100,000 rockets and missiles. They are being assisted dramatically by Iran. They are an Iranian force, and definitely dealing with them. It's a challenge, but I think that the IDF has proven its capabilities. Nobody would have imagined that we'll be able to destroy Hamas the way we're doing so. And every day, the Israeli units are getting better and better, learning more and more. What we did in Khan Yunis, we didn't do before in the northern part, in Gaza. We have developed techniques to fight in the tunnels, overcome booby traps, IEDs, blasting doors, destroy the terrorists underground. And what we can do in Gaza, we can do also in Lebanon.
It seems to
So,
me. Go ahead.
yeah. No, so once the IDF will do a ground incursion in Lebanon, there will be nothing that will stop our soldiers from moving forward.
Then what year were you in charge in Gaza? What years?
It was I was twice in service in Gaza. The first time between 97 to 99, and the second time was between 2010 2011.
Because it would seem to me, and again, I'm not a military individual, just going by what I read in the newspapers and see on the media, that Israel did a much better job moving quicker in Gaza this time around. Because last time around, it seemed to me there were more casualties. Israel learned from his past excursions into Gaza and did a more efficient job in capturing territory at a much quicker pace. Am I correct in that?
Well, it's a different kind of operation. It's a full-scale war. Before that, we did very limited ground operations. When you do a limited ground operation, it's completely different. It's a completely different scenario. Here, we're taking over the whole Gaza Strip completely. It's something else.
But they had, even though it wasn't a war per se like it is now, but Israel went in with troops, they covered the territory. But it seemed to me that they seem to have learned from the past how to deal with the tunnels. The tunnels is a major thing, and they think, from what I've read, they seem to be doing a much better job this time around.
Yeah, I mean, we dealt with the tunnels in 2014, at least the ones that crossed to Israel, and we saw that we lack a lot of capabilities which were developed in the last 10 years. And still, when the IDF went into Gaza now, there wasn't really a plan to fight inside the tunnels. But it took us a few weeks to understand that if you don't fight inside the tunnels, you cannot win. They are all hiding thousands of terrorists underground, and you have to deal with this. And the IDF adapted very, very fast and learned how to fight inside the tunnels. And now they have nowhere to hide. We're hunting them down everywhere, above ground, underground. It's just a matter of time until we completely destroy them.
Are they using seawater to flush out the tunnels?
In some cases, yes. It doesn't work on every tunnel, but this is also one of the techniques. But we're also fighting inside the tunnels.
And there's more extensive tunnels than Israel thought, right? There's so much more sophisticated tunnels than what Israel anticipated.
It's a whole city. It's a whole city underground with huge tunnels, very elaborate, very deep. Basically, being able to overcome Air Force capabilities, intelligence, and the only solution is fighting on the ground.
What would you say is why, in your professional opinion, did Israel not know that Hamas was going to invade Israel? According to what I've read, it wasn't just Hamas, it was Hezbollah, Hamas, some Palestinian groups, radical Iran, all planning a massive attack on Israel, all coordinated at the same time. Hamas jumped the gun and started it early, but it was supposed to be a massive effort. Didn't Israel have any idea what was taking place?
Well, this is something that will need to be checked, what exactly we knew, but it's obvious that we were lacking human intelligence, and they were overcoming technological capabilities, basically by using notes and people and not technology. You cannot disregard human intelligence. It's crucial. Now, in Judah and Samaria, we apprehend every day at least 15 suspects or terrorists. So if you multiply it by a year or by 17 years, of Hamas. In Judah and Samaria, we apprehended something like 94,000 people, which we got intelligence from, and we have a good understanding of what's going on. In Gaza, the reality was we couldn't apprehend anybody. They were on one side of the fence, we are on the other side. Going in, it's a full-scale war. And if you don't have everyday contact with the society, you don't have human intelligence.
Here's a question from Costa Rica. Beryl is watching us on YouTube. Beryl writes, please ask the general if he signed a document that the disengagement from Gush Katif was good for Israel's security.
If I signed?
Right. He wanted to know if you thought it was a good idea that Israel should pull out from Gaza when it did.
So actually, when the disengagement occurred, before that, I was the aide-de-camp of Chief of General Staff. And I witnessed this terrible decision-making. And I remember that when Sharon decided to disengage, we had a cabinet meeting. I attended this cabinet meeting where the Chief of Staff said to Sharon that if he disengages like that from Gaza, in 1 year, Gaza will become Hamastan, Al-Qaedastan, and Hezbollastan. And we lose control of this place. And although this is what the Chief of Staff said, and also the head of the Shin Bet, Sharon went in his plan. And I was so shocked to see this kind of decision-making that at that time I said to myself, I was just a lieutenant colonel at the time, that one day I will build an organization that will make impact on the Israeli society and decision makers, and will make sure that never again there will be terrible decision making like that, because both Oslo and the disengagement were devastating to Israel's security. Everything that is happening to us, we brought on ourselves. It's not God-made. We made it. We made huge mistakes. And I think we have to make sure that we never again endanger our society in such a way.
Uri Dan, who was close to Ariel Sharon, and he also was a New York Post writer, told me on this broadcast that the reason why Sharon pulled out of Gaza, he felt that Hamas was going to take over. And then you can say, listen, Hamas took over Gaza, no more withdrawal of land from Judea and Samaria. That was his scenario.
Yeah, I mean, if we would have done that in Judea and Samaria, we would have ceased to exist. Very simple. We couldn't have won that.
His thing was that since Hamas wouldn't take over Gaza, he can say, listen, you already gave territory away to Palestinians. You have Hamas. You can't do it in Judea and Samaria. He figured the case closed. That was according to Uridan. I don't know if you've heard that scenario before, but that's what Uridan told me on the airwaves.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is not something we can do in Judea and Samaria, not even in Gaza. We see the consequences of our decision-making.
We hope you'll be able to join us just for a few minutes more. Our guest from Israel, he's listed among the top 50 Jewish influential people in the world. He's Brigadier General Amir Avivi. He's the chairman and founder of IDSF. He served in Gaza, served Battalion 605, and many other capacities in Israel. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned. If you'd like to speak to the Brigadier General, please call us at 212-769-1925, 212-769-1925. Email zev@talklinenetwork.com. Coming up today, Sunday, we're on WOR 710 on the AM dial. Our guest is Rabbi Avi Shnal from the Good Israel of America. He's now the assemblyman covering Lakewood. We'll be right back.
Take advantage of early bird pricing at Pesach Supreme's Ultimate Hamish Pesach Experience at the Sleepy Hollow Hotel in Tarrytown, close to New York City. Aside from tantalizing Pesach delicacies prepared fresh daily by famous Hamish chef Shimi Zafir, your family will enjoy spectacular Chol HaMoed activities for all ages, including children's rides, kumzits, and concert. Not to mention an exciting day camp program led by Ari Abramowitz, world-renowned singer Shia Burko, Chazan Chaim Unger, and top-class entertainment led by Gershie Moskowitz, and so much more. Book now during the early bird special and get $500 off per couple room. Call, text, or WhatsApp 201-777-0212 to reserve. That's 201-777-0212.
201-777-0212.
Are you feeling lost in the maze of Medicare? Are all those ads that you see and hear confusing? I'm Medicare Menachem Friedman, and I can help you make the right choice. Over 15 years ago, I helped my grandparents navigate the complex world of Medicare. They were confused, but I brought them clarity, and I can do the same for you. I host countless Medicare educational events, breaking down the ABCs and Ds of Medicare. No jargon, just plain talk. Wondering when to enroll? I can advise you at the proper time to enroll at the right moment so you can avoid penalties and make informed choices. If you're confused about Medicare supplement plans with Part D RX versus Medicare Advantage, I will help you weigh those options. I don't work for Medicare, but work for you. You can change your plan. Fear shouldn't drive your choices. I will empower you to make clear and concise decisions. Say goodbye to that Medicare anxiety. I'll help you find the plan that fits your unique situation. From New York to Florida to California, I'm licensed in over 25 states. Please connect with me, Medicare Menachem Friedman, today. Call 347-738-6846. That's 347-738-6846, or you can find me on the web at mindfulmedicaresolutions.com, because your Medicare journey deserves a trusted companion.
Hey, it's New York Times bestselling author and ghostwriter Michael Levin, and books are my babies. Here's an amazing idea for a gift for a loved one or friend, or perhaps for yourself. A family memoir, a business book, or any other kind of book written and published just for you. My company, Jewish Leaders Books, offers ghostwriting, publishing, marketing, and distribution of books onto Amazon and through Simon & Schuster, distribution into brick-and-mortar Barnes & Noble bookstores, and even into airport bookstores. You can get a framed photo of the cover design to give as the perfect gift. To learn more about how Jewish Leaders Books can get your book done for you or for a friend or loved one, contact my friend Zev Brenner at 212-769-1925, extension 100, or drop him an email at zev@talklinenetwork.com. Again, that's 212-769-1925, extension 100, or write to Zev at zev@talklinenetwork.com, and we will get your book going for you.
In the base Medrash Heichel Moshe, under the leadership of the Prager Rav, Moshe Boren Shlita, located in the Upper West Side, is hosting a lively musical Kumsitz event on Motzei Shabbat, Saturday night, March 2nd, for Orthodox and Torah-minded singles between the ages of upper 20s to upper 40s. Join us for refreshments, lively music, singers, and the opportunity to meet like-minded people. Chadchan will be present to help facilitate meetings. Don't miss out this wonderful opportunity. Text to 845-376-3169, 845-376-3169, and they'll send you information. Again, that's 845-376-3169.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
And we're back. Our guest, just for a little while longer, Brigadier General Reserve Amir Avivi, his organization. He's chairman and founder of IDSF, and he held many positions in the IDF. We're taking some of your phone calls. Let's go to Beryl in Brooklyn. We have a lot of calls. So, Beryl in Brooklyn, your question or comment to the Brigadier General.
Yeah, good to go.
Shavua Tov.
Like that, the general. While all the war goes on in Gaza, nobody thinks anymore about the nuclear bomb Iran is developing. It's almost complete. And in fact, I think that the whole Gaza war was planned because they want to wear down the Israeli army.
I have had trouble hearing you. So your question is?
Why nobody? No, it's not a question. Why nobody take Iran and develop this plan to invade Israel?
It's about Iran developing the nuclear bomb, is what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I understand the question, and I think it's a.
Away the attention from the nuclear bomb.
Oh, there's no more taking away attention. Go ahead.
And they also want to weaken the Israeli army. They won't be able to after the war to go attack.
Oh, so I didn't say quite. You said they're taking deflecting.
And the whole one again.
Good. I'm going to let the Major General respond to you because we have a lot of calls. I want to get them. So I understand your question. Let the Brigadier General respond to you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Nobody talk about that.
Why don't? It's a good question. They're deflecting from it. Good question. Go ahead, Brigadier General.
Yeah. So I agree. I think that really what's going on in Iran is dramatic. They are moving towards nuclear capabilities. It must be dealt with. And definitely they are trying to use the proxies to keep us busy while they are moving towards nuclear capabilities. It's a danger not just to Israel, it's a danger to the region and the whole globe. And this is why the US must build and lead a coalition and deal with Iran and not be afraid of dealing militarily with this terrible entity. We need to really put a credible military threat on them and demand the dismantling of these nuclear sites and also be willing to attack them if needed. The world cannot have Iran, a nuclear Iran.
I think what he's saying was Iran's deflecting attention by having this and by doing this, so therefore they can go ahead, build the bomb, and weaken Israel and also finish the bomb.
Yeah, we have to be very resolute when it comes to the Iranian nuclear problem.
Yeah, who's this? Okay, let's take some more phone calls. You're on the air. Where are your first name? Where are you calling from? Yes. First name, where are you calling from? You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, hello.
Oh, George from Manhattan. Go ahead.
I'm not a military strategist, but I would like to ask your guests, what is the official position of the Israeli military when it comes to the hostage and their rehabilitation, et cetera, et cetera? I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did you hear the question?
The official policy regarding what?
The hostages, I guess, was what he was saying. Israel wants to get them out, so...
Well, yes. I mean, we are determined to bring back all the hostages. We understand that this has a clear connection to the ground incursion and the military pressure on Hamas. And we'll continue to put military pressure on Hamas and destroy them until they bring all the hostages back. And we're not going to give up any of our goals. We're going to bring all the hostages back and also destroy Hamas. Hamas is trying all the time to demand that the deal will be a complete stop of IDF operations and then we get back the hostages. This is something Israel will never agree to. We're determined to completely destroy Hamas and we're going to continue the pressure until they are pressured enough to even bargain for their lives and bring back the hostages.
Oh, Delia in Queens, your question, comment for our guest. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Shavua Tov. I just wanted to ask you, being that you have dangers from so many places, are the checkpoints going to be restored the way it was about 10 years ago, where the Arabs cannot just go freely and be a threat where we have a lot of casualties? Are they going to restore in Israel the checkpoints?
Well, I understand that we're talking about Judea and Samaria, not about Gaza. We are very much
on the radio. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We are very much on the offensive at the moment in Judea and Samaria. We apprehended more than 3,000 terrorists, half of them Hamas. Putting a check post is a tactical issue. Sometimes it's worthwhile doing so, many times not, because it becomes a vulnerable place. So the brigade commanders and division commander in the area, they decide when it's worthwhile or not to put a check post. Check post is not some magical solution to fight terrorism. The best way to fight terrorism is be on the offensive and be inside the cities and apprehend terrorists and keep them on the run. This is what we need to do. all the time, keep them on the run and apprehend them. That's the best policy.
Okay, let's go to Susan in Brooklyn. Thank you for waiting. Go ahead, Susan. You lower your radio and you can speak. Have your question for the Brigadier General.
Yes. Considering that Israel is taking a beating about killing civilians, I wonder if there's any way that Mr. al-Sisi would consider giving some of them temporary visas so they could get out of Rafah and Israel could take care of what it needs. The only problem will be that Israel will have to vet who goes across. But he's afraid that people will stay there permanently. But if he only gives them temporary visas, could that defuse the situation somewhat?
Yeah, so the humanitarian thing to do from the Egyptian side would have been to let them go out, even for a short period of time, but this is not happening. The Egyptians are blocking completely the border. They're not letting people out. Unless the Palestinians storm the border and forcibly go into Egypt, at the moment, Israel will have to deal with it by moving them to the west, to the coastal area, clearing Rafah, and then going into Rafah.
I think aren't they building a wall or a fence also?
Yeah, they've built a wall, a fence, they brought tanks. They're very determined not to let the Palestinians go out.
Before we let you go, I know that you're the chairman and founder of the IDSF. Tell us about the IDSF.
The IDSF, Israel's Defense and Security Forum, is a grassroots movement and a think tank that is devoted to one thing: ensuring the security of Israel and the Jewish people for generations to come. We ask the biggest question of all: what is needed to secure our people and our state for generations? And we answer these questions, and we educate the young generation, the society, and decision makers in Israel and also around the world about what are the needs to secure Israel. We work very closely with the government and the Knesset. We brief diplomats in the European Union and Washington on a weekly basis. We deploy hundreds of officers to high schools and pre-army programs to strengthen our youth and encourage them to serve a meaningful service and connect to the core Zionistic Jewish values. We say that national security is first and foremost about national values. Without Judaism and Zionism, there is no tank or airplane that can help. It's all about spirit. The grassroots movement is growing very, very fast. We are reaching almost 30,000 members. From them, thousands and thousands of officers and commanders who have served in all the security forces of Israel, and all of them very strong Jews and Zionists who love their people and land and country, patriots, will do everything needed to defend Israel.
Now, since you started in the army, you probably have seen there have been more religious soldiers. In fact, they're the best soldiers in Israel, right? The religious soldiers, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they're a growing part of the Israeli army.
Yeah, well, I think that what you see in this war is an amazing young generation. We talked a lot about this generation, the TikTok generation, but they are fierce fighters defending the country, and they're all fighting together, religious, non-religious, from kibbutzim, from other places. Definitely, you've seen the ground forces, a lot of Zionistic religious people, but you see many others, and think that overall, the Israeli society is showing amazing strengths, and the army is doing an amazing job, both the regular soldiers and also the reserve. I think that our enemies really, really underestimated us, and they don't understand our culture and what happens when we are threatened. They didn't expect to see the Israeli society and army reacting the way we are in this war.
I want to thank you for joining with us, Brigadier General Reserve Amir Avivi, Chairman and Founder, IDSF. He has many different posts in the IDF, including Commander Deputy Commander of the Gaza Division, the first time on the air. But we look forward to having you back again. And thank you for your service to helping. You're protecting all of us, even Jew and
Thank you
non.
very much.
And thank you, and continue. And as I mentioned, one of the top 50 lunches, maybe a future Prime Minister of Israel. So we'll have to wait till after the war to find out, right?
Thank you very much. And maybe one more thing. I want everybody to know that, first of all, we'll win, and we'll win decisively this war on all fronts. And the bigger the win will be, the greater will be the golden age of Israel and the Jewish people the day after. So we have a lot to look forward to, but in order to win the war, we have to stay united, strong, and focus on one thing, on victory.
Amen. Thank you for your service. Thank you for all that you do for all of us.
Thank you very much.